It's a scary world out there, man. Sometimes you just need a big, strong, green Mel Gibson to hug you and tell you everything is going to be okay. That the rat men can't hurt you. Only problem is they can. And they will, given half a chance. So the Wild Hunters of Kurnis and the Azrai have mobilized at the Moon Dial, while Skaven sniper teams, Ashen Assassins, and a Screaming Bell toll verminous dirges in the desert. I am playing against XMT Red Legion, who will be commanding the Thagaraki, and I will be controlling the Wood Elves of Athel Loren, a faction I used to play a lot more back in the waning days of Warhammer 1, but I still find them incredibly enjoyable to play. So, in terms of army compositions, Orion, the Avatar of Kurnis, will be my legendary lord of choice, and he is a solid pick in this matchup. Captain Planet is unbreakable, he causes terror, he gets regen and a meaty ward save when he drops low, great dueling potential and range capabilities, wave clear for blowing up trash mobs, and the Horn of the Wild Hunt, which will get your Wild Riders up to 100 charge bonus. Pretty filthy if you're running a Cav Corps like I am here. Dryads, Eternal Guard, and Deepwood Scouts. Find them very solid against Skaven, who typically don't have high armor value, so they can counter skirmish very effectively against the Ratmen. On my right flank, Drycha's second cousin twice removed is branching out with Miasma, Earthblood, and Pendulum. Great support caster with decent melee capabilities as well, and Fear. And leading my Deepwood Scouts is a Waystalker, which continues the trend of versatility for the Azrai. You can snipe out enemy characters and high-value threats, while pooping out arrows of Kurnis, which will blow up a Warp Lightning Cannon model anytime it's fired. So he's my insurance policy if the Skaven want to sit back with artillery. Across the desert comes the Vermintide and Red Legion. 3 Warplock Jezzails, so his range capabilities already outshine the Wood Elves, and they're a huge threat to the Branch Wraith, to Orion, and to my Deepwood Scouts. Besides that, it's a pretty wide build, a lot of Clan Rats and Skaven Slaves, and a Warlock Engineer with Howling Warp Gale, Warp Lightning, and the Warpstone Armor, which drains the life of any nearby units. You can plop him in the middle of a bunch of Clan Rats and Slaves and win engagements you really have no business winning, simply because of that DOT. At the center of everything comes a Clan Scrutin Grey Seer and his Screaming Bell. Pretty terrifying focal point of the build, and unfortunately, Deepwood Scouts don't really have enough AP to put a lot of pressure on it. So he'll kind of ignore my shots and chunk through any battle line as he screams through my Eternal Guard and Dryads. Now, as I said, I do have a Cav Corps here, and this might be one of my favorite unit reworks in the trilogy up to this point. The Wild Hunters of Kurnis used to just be a Guardian or a Wild Rider with slightly better stats. Now they have magic attacks and bonus versus large, and they are just way better than they used to be, so was quite happy to see them get that rework. And Death Runners are hiding in the back of the map, waiting for an opportune moment to strike. They could just completely blend my Deepwood Scouts in seconds if I'm not careful, so hopefully I can see them in time. There is a Vanguarded Wild Rider all the way in the back of the map on the other side, and yeah, I did see them, so that is definitely a mistake. Gotta use those stealth bombs a little bit earlier, but finding them is actually not going to be easy. Now, I will say, one of the things that I really think Creative Assembly should rework with ambushes in general is fixing that symbol that appears when a unit is spotted. I think it's a little bit too much hand-holding for a strategy game. I don't like that it blares this massive klaxon and symbol on your screen. Players should be responsible for paying attention to the battlefield themselves. They should have to see things developing with their own 2 eyeballs. I think it disproportionately affects factions that rely on stealth and guerrilla ambushing, like the Skaven, like the Wood Elves, and like the Beastmen, and that's a decent chunk of rosters in the game. And the reason I was able to pinpoint these Ashen Death Runners so quickly was because I got that notification. Something I didn't deserve to get. I don't think I would have noticed them otherwise. So what I'm going to do here is try to narrow down the area in which they are able to hide. He actually does a great job of getting to safety, and I still can't find them. And I began freaking out at this point. I was like, where did they go? I cannot find them. They pop those concealment bombs, and that means the spotting range is super low, and I thought they might have been able to bust out. Meanwhile, Waywatcher is dropping some arrows of Kurnis on the Warplock Jezzails. Not going to do tremendous damage to them. They're very spread out. They are not a Warp Lightning Cannon, obviously, so only going to kill 2 models per arrow of Kurnis there. But finally, I found an opportunity. I found where they were hiding, which took a lot longer than I wanted it to. And death will embrace these poor Ratmen murderers cowering in their forests. Death Runners typically do not enjoy fair fights, so we'll avoid giving them one. Captain Planet dropping an ugly-ass Hawk's Talon. I was trying to catch them when they were blobbed up, but I'll miss. And instead, we'll blow the horn of the Wild Hunt like Louis Armstrong. 100 charge bonus on the Wild Hunters of Kurnis and the Wild Riders. And It's going to evaporate both formations. 2 Death Ray units dead in the opening stages of the battle. I'll take that all day, baby. And if you're going for a Cav Core, I really do recommend bringing that Horn of the Wild Hunt. Wild Riders already hit like trucks, but when they've got 100 charge bonus, and you can use that map wide, so it means any engagement, no matter where the Wild Riders are, they will be getting that buff. I mean, that's the result. You just see units completely disappear, disintegrate under their charge, and I took very little damage in return. Meanwhile, though, there's another incredibly important engagement. The main lines are clashing, and the Warplock Jezzails are tearing apart my Deepwood Scouts. Sniper weapon teams have always been very good. Even after a handful of nerfs, Warplock Jezzails are an incredibly potent unit, and my Deepwood Scouts just don't have the range to trade with them. And even if they were in range, it would go poorly because they don't have a missile block chance, while the sniper weapon teams do. So while all that's happening, the Dryads clashing with the Clan Rats in the front ranks. The Dryads will typically do very well here, but remember, the Warlock Master, or the Warlock Engineer, will be imbuing that Warpstone armor and draining the life of my Eternal Guard and my Dryads, which is going to hurt a lot. Now, this is another reason why I bring Orion in the Skaven matchup quite a bit. Those Hounds of Karnas are super good for prancing their way through an enemy battle line, and you combine that with Terror, and you will quickly see a lot of Skaven slaves and Clan Rats start running for the hills. When he gets in, things just turn into a red mist. And with 54 speed, you don't have to stick around in melee. You can keep cyclocharging with him and put him anywhere you need him. And there are going to be a lot of places on the battlefield we need to put him. This is not an amazing idea. For some reason, I thought they were Skaven slaves. Those are Clan Rats. Wild Riders won't deal very much damage because they do have charge defense against large. So I'll notice it, pull out, and go somewhere else. And what I really have to do now is shut down the Warplock Jezzails, who are tearing up my range play. Deepwood Scouts are an important part of this build. I need their skirmish potential to easily deal with the Rat Ogre. So you can see the snipers, I've already taken my Branch Wraith down super, super low. But finally, my Vanguarded Wild Rider ambush is working out nicely as a Penumbral Pendulum slices through these Skaven Slave Slingers, who are actually a pretty big threat to Orion. Remember, he only has 30 armor and he has a big hitbox, so Slingers will wreck him pretty quick until he gets down to that ward save and the Cloak of Isha. More Warp Lightning, more Hawk's Talons raining down from above, and here comes Captain Planet. Don't summon me again unless you're ready for that pain. The power is mine, bitches. But while Mel Gibson's ripping and tearing his way through vermin, they're shooting him in the face from long range, and I don't think I have to explain the mess a bunch of Jezzails and Slingers can make when shooting into a large target with only 30 armor. That HP bar is going to start plummeting pretty quick, while the Wild Riders continue feasting on the Jezzails and Clan Rats in the rear. A lot of stuff has been invested to blocking their charges, but I have 3 of them. Skaven can have some difficulties dealing with this kind of mobility, and when you're moving around at 90 plus speed, and you've got 3 shielded light cav units that hit like a truck, yeah, you can put an immense amount of pressure on the Skaven back line, and they're not having a great time over there, but they mulched. They completely mulched my infantry, and now the Assassin and Warlock Engineer have a full surround off on Orion, and he's going to start dropping. Another Arrow of Karnas going forward, this time towards the Screaming Bell, and I'm going to have to rely on my cavalry because the rest of my army got chunked through pretty quick. That Screaming Bell just terrified so many of my infantry, got rid of them quite quickly, and Hammer and Anvil cyclocharging is the best way to deal with the infantry for the Skaven that remains. But I've got to be really cognizant of the positioning of that Warlock Engineer. His Warpstone armor will drain the life of my Wild Riders as well, and they don't like that. I can't imagine why. It's almost like they enjoy having their souls intact or something. Very strange. Orion is just running away at this point. The Assassin, Warlock Engineer, and the Focus Fire from the Natty Bubo Sharpshooters proved to be a little bit too much for him. Thankfully, we do have that Cloak of Isha, but once he goes to 20% HP, the regen stops kicking in, so it'll only take him up to that 20% HP threshold and then doesn't do anything more. Warp Lightning raining down on top of the Wild Hunters of Karnas, and some more free Wild Riders continuing to rack up the kills here. They have put in so much work for me this game. Got a gorgeous sandwich on the Natty Bubo Sharpshooters, taking them offline. Orion retreating to the safety of the woods for now, and 2 of my Deepwood Scouts are still alive. Actually, 3 of them, but one of them was the first to get focus fire down by the Warplock Jezzails, and they got pretty much wrecked, so they don't have a lot of focus fire potential left. So, here we go. We got a Grey Seer on top of that Screaming Bell, trying to shoot it, but it's not really working. The assassin ripping the throat out of some poor Eternal Guard, and that was not a good throw from Orion. He's gonna get brought up by the Geneva Conventions here. That was very unfortunate. Friendly fire, brutal friendly fire, just insta-jibbed 2 or 3 of his own Eternal Guard. Yikes. I don't think Ariel's gonna be too happy with that one. And for now, going to pull my Wild Riders away from everything else and just go after the ranged play. Needs to get shut down. Remember, Wild Riders do rely a lot on that physical resistance that they retain, and Warplock Jezzails will completely ignore it, and they've been by far the biggest threat to my army for this entire battle outside that Screaming Bell. And this is going to be pure Azrai action, which is run the hell away and get an advantageous position before you re-engage. Don't have a lot of ammo left, but there are a few shots left on my Waystalker and on Orion, so if we can get a little bit more skirmish potential in and get my Wild Riders in a better position, we can then commit fully, and I'll just have to sack my Deepwood Scouts here. They're not going to be particularly efficient in this kind of engagement. They are not meant for melee, even against clan rats. They will not do very well, but this is opening an opportunity for the Wild Riders to run down the rest of the Slingers and the isolated wing out on the Skaven right flank. But Rat Ogres and the Screaming Bell are still a huge threat to my army. Orion is very low, and he'll be relying on that Cloak of Isha to hopefully keep him in this fight. That 44% ward save is super good. Assassin getting chased off. Waystalker going to try to duel him right next to the white line and might have enough melee prowess to push him off of the map entirely. Rat Ogres chasing after Orion. Wild Hunters of Karna slamming into the back, but then here comes the Warpstone armor and that drain, which has been the bane of my existence this game. And it's looking like Mad Max out here. Mel Gibson running away from the War Boys and a Morton Joe. Is he going to be able to escape? Well, the 54 speed helps him reposition pretty efficiently as they pound through the jungle. They will not be able to close the gap, and Orion can turn around and start throwing some more lances yet again. Now, I did forget, actually. I just realized, I think I said the Warplock Jezzails have magic attacks on their range play. They do not. It's kind of weird that they don't, because they are using magical projectiles. Probably should. It is Warpstone that they fire with their projectiles, but either way, they do not go through the physical resistance of the Wild Riders, so I was incorrect on that front. But they do have the Shield Breaker trait, which will go through the shield of my shielded Wild Riders, so they are very effective for killing Wild Riders either way. Warp Lightning raining down, Warpstone armor hitting everything, and these blob fights are a nightmare for the Azrai. This is not where I want to be at all. I'm forced to cycle charge over and over again to try to get rid of the Screaming Bell and the Rat Ogres, but even after killing 2 of those Ashen Death Runners right from the start of the match, this game is going right down to the wire. Another charge coming in. Eternal Guard are melting to that AoE DOT. Rat Ogres are somehow still alive despite being engaged by bonus versus large Wild Hunters of Karnas. Everything's getting drained, and things are beginning to swing a little bit in the Wood Elves' favor, but it's hurting so bad, and this is just not where the Azrai want to be in a blob fight where Screaming Bells and Warplock Engineers and all that stuff can just blow them into oblivion. You can see my army, which was relatively healthy before this blob fight began in earnest, is now getting drained like crazy. Orion should be able to kill that Screaming Bell in only a couple attacks, but he needs to actually land them, and he's being challenged with it. Scorch coming through. Finally, the Skaven will break, and the Wood Elves will take the battlefield with only a handful of models left. Got a little bit too close for comfort there, but an exciting ending nevertheless, and Captain Planet put in some amazing work that battle. He was awesome in so many capacities for me. Now, he did get really low to the Slingers and the Jezzails, but his Hounds of Karnas, his Hawk's Talon, and his Javelin play really helped quite a bit in thinning out the hordes of the Vermin. And one thing that really impressed me that game, and they always impress me, are the Wild Riders. They are just so damn good. Look at that. All over 200 kills, all with a bunch of chevrons earned. They killed off the Warplock Jezzails. They put tons of pressure on the Slingers. They cycle charged the infantry. They killed the Death Runners. There's not a whole lot they can't do when microed well. There's a reason why they are the core of so many Wood Elf builds. It's either them or Way Watchers. Those are going to be the 2 things